Hello and welcome to my podcast, Empowered to Thrive. I'm your host, Corrine Powell, and I'm the owner of Change Radically. In this space, we'll talk all things inner wellness, and parenting will certainly come up too, because I'm a mom to 4 kids, so parenting is a huge part of my life. This space is designed for safety. Your inner child is welcome. Your past self is invited to listen as well. And no matter what type of day you're having, I want you to know I'm glad to be with you. I live out of vulnerability and transparency, so come and be. Be yourself. Be messy. Invite a friend and please stay a while. Keep coming back. I want you around. Now, let's jump into today's episode. All right, so Ailish, I'm so excited to have you here with me today. And for everyone listening, I want to introduce Ailish Lucas to you. She is a lifestyle business coach who helps online business owners to create a life, not just a living, to achieve sustainable success without burning out. Ailish is an award-winning business owner who has not only helped clients to achieve the revenue goals they want, but has also helped them to achieve a sustainable way of living that lights them up too. And we are so aligned in that way to not get lost in our work, to have the lifestyle we want along with doing what we love. So I'm so excited to have this time to chat with you. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And before we jump into conversation about Inner Critic, which is a topic that I haven't talked about in a while. So I'm glad to bring it up again for anyone that hasn't been along for the long ride. But just for fun, what do you, when you go to a coffee shop, what is your go-to drink?
Oh, great question. It's always a coconut flat white. Always, like, it's my favorite thing to drink. And if I can't have caffeine, then it's a matcha coconut flat white.
Okay. And is coconut in general something you go to?
Yeah, so I did, this is a little random side note, but I did a mycotoxin detox it was probably the middle of last year, because I saw a functional health practitioner and they had said to me, because I was drinking a lot of oat milk at the time, and they had said, you need to swap over to coconut, because with oat milk, what they used to do back in the day was soak the oats to then make them more easily digestible to use them. And then they would get rid of the water, the oat water or the oat milk, because it had the toxins in, or it would have like micro molds and things in it.
Yes.
But now what we do is we drink it. So I was like, oh yeah, that's a bit gross. So then I swapped over to coconut and then have never gone back.
Okay. Oh, I see. So the matcha, the drink is coconut-based coconut milk.
Yes.
Ah, yes. Okay. All right. Yes. Well, I'm a fan of coconut. I love coconut custard and all things flavored coconut. So that like jumped out at me. But I know you post photos of being at coffee shops. So I felt like, oh, this is a question that I can ask you, because coffee shops are my fun place to be too. So.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into this conversation about inner critic and how can we actually make it a thing that's not inhibiting us from going where we want to go, and share with us whatever personal stories apply, because I'm all about the real life stories, and as vulnerable as you want to be, you're welcome to be.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So, well, I guess my background in all of this is I was brought up by Irish Catholic parents. So that normally says quite a lot about, like, we have a degree in guilt. We second guess quite a lot sometimes. And with my mum in particular, she is incredible and she is a very, very giving woman. So I was brought up knowing and being modeled that everybody else comes first, you come last. Everybody else comes first, you come last. So I kind of had that background and upbringing. And then when I left my corporate role and you go into being an online entrepreneur, it's not just about building a business. It's also, you face so many inner demons, and so many of these voices in your head start to come out, because there's more than one. And it was, I always say, like, going and opening an online business, or a business in general, is the biggest personal development journey that you can go on, because there's so much that you have to do, and it's such a steep learning curve, and there are so many different obstacles, mainly from yourself and your own mind, that happen, which you have to battle with and overcome. And it's not just business that happens and life gets put on pause when you are setting up a business. It's very much like life is there as well. And from a personal perspective, when we had COVID, I was building my my membership at the time, and I was growing my online business, and I was living by myself throughout all of that. I then met my partner, and we had a really, really tough time because his 2.5-year-old daughter had passed away. And a couple of years earlier, he had become a widower. So there was a huge amount of grief that I was supporting him with, and then also building a relationship with my now my bonus son, because we all live together. And there was support there, which I then modeled as, put everybody else first, I will come last. And then that was the same in my business, to make sure all my clients were really happy and I would come last. And it was a one-way ticket to Burnout Central. And in January 2022, I just done an online launch. It was my most successful launch I'd ever done. And I came away from it and was like, I can't do this anymore. And now when we're talking about like those limiting beliefs, which we'll go into in a little bit, there was always that inner critic there, in that it was like, you're not pushing hard enough, you're not working hard enough, why aren't you figuring this out, why do you feel exhausted all the time? But because you should be able to figure this out, like, you're a really positive person, like, what is going on? And that inner critic would get louder and louder and louder, until then January came of 22, and I was so exhausted that then I heard this whisper of the soul. And it was very, very quiet. And I remember it vividly, just being sat there, finishing my launch and going, there has to be a better way. Like, this whisper just said, like, you can't keep doing this anymore. There has to be a better way. And then that's when I kind of went on the journey of, well, actually, what do I really want to do? How do I really want to help? And how do I overcome these thoughts in my head all the time? Because these voices feel really, really, really loud. And they feel all encompassing. So it isn't just a small part of me has a niggling doubt. It felt like it was a full body experience, where it was like, I am a failure. I can't do this. Who am I to do what I'm doing? This isn't good enough. Like, you're not good enough. And it took me a while to be able to work through that, in terms of, like, prior to that, I'd always had that inner critic there, but and I was going to therapy for it. So I'd done like therapy every week for 2 years. And a lot of it was around this inner critic. And I was like, okay, this is helpful. But sometimes with therapy, I don't know whether you get this, but it feels like you're walking or wading through mud for quite a while, and then you'll have a light bulb moment, and then you'll walk through mud again. And it wasn't until I discovered something called positive intelligence, which is now what I'm trained in as a mindset coach, that what that did was it gave me the tools to be able to stop that negative voice and that inner critic immediately, and be able to give myself the space to choose a different way. And in that space is that element of freedom, because we're not just then repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. We're being able to stop that pattern and then be able to potentially choose another way. Doesn't always happen, but what I learned from that, and that was only 6 weeks of me doing it, was just revolutionary. It genuinely changed my brain, and like the science to prove all of that as well, that it really does retrain your brain. But it was absolutely phenomenal. And that's why I was like, right, I have to go and retrain in this, because I love mindset. I love being able to help people grow their businesses, but also I knew that the fundamental thing that people needed to be able to work on was mindset in order for them to take that next level. So I went and retrained in that, and I can hand on heart say that that inner critic is, the volume on it has decreased dramatically. Now, it will never go away. If somebody tells you that they don't experience negative emotions, like, that is a red flag. Like, I'll still get caught up. I'm not Yoda, but it's very much, the volume has reduced on it dramatically. So I am kinder to myself. I'm more likely to go after what I want. I have tools not only to be able to help myself, but also help my bonus son and my child who's on the way, and also work on my relationship and be able to communicate better. So what it did was just incredible, really. So now I want to be able to help share that with other people as part of them growing their online business, but also being able to help them to create a life that they love too, because you can't just put your life on hold whilst you're growing a business. And they're a dance between the two. And when you can have the tools to be able to dance well and dance in time and dance to the beat, then it makes things just a lot sweeter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that. I appreciate you sharing your journey there, and also knowing that the critic is not keeping you holding you back like it did. So you alluded to it, but can you give us a few examples of what the critic sounded like for you in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can give you an example of how it sounded for me, but then what I'll do is, which will hopefully be useful for the listener, is give you examples of what we all tend to have, because there's different versions. So for me, I would very much have the narrative of, I'm a failure, I'm worthless, this isn't good, like, I'm not good enough. And that would play over, and it would be really sneaky in lots of different ways, but those were the fundamental messages that it would always come back to. Now, if you are listening and you might resonate with that, you might not, but what we found from research is all of us have a judge. And this judge judges ourselves, others, and circumstances. And my judge would always judge me. It wouldn't really judge anybody else. That muscle was not strong. It would just be on me, and it would give me such a hard time. So that's where the I'm worthless, I'm a failure would come in. And then sometimes the circumstances would come in where I'm like, I can't thrive here, I can't live here, I shouldn't be here. That, like, living here is a failure. Unless you're then living on a beach somewhere in Bali and like romping around in the sea, some like fun things like that. But what the judge then does is that it activates accomplice saboteurs. So there are 9 different types of accomplice saboteurs. And what they then do, well, let me explain what some of them are. Some of them will be like hyperachiever, people pleaser, stickler, controller, hyper rational, victim, like, and there's 9 altogether. But when you can then see how we all have this master judge, and then it jumps into these different categories, we can then start to do something about it. So for me personally, I would have my judge, and they would be like, you're worthless, you can't, like, you're a failure, all of this sort of thing. It would then activate in me a hyperachiever mode. And that hyperachiever mode meant that I would end up working to like ridiculous hours and almost have like workaholic tendencies to make sure that I was pushing myself. And I would be pushing myself from this place of lack and not enough. Whereas what we want to do, because that's not really a fun place to be, is be pulled by a vision and be pulled by the excitement and the fun from something, and knowing that we're enough and we're going to go and get it. So there's a very much a distinct difference between push and pull. You still work hard in like being pulled by your vision, but it's not being driven out of that place of lack. And then what would then come up is, because we tend to have these 9 different saboteurs in varying different degrees. So my first one would be hyperachiever, then it would be people pleaser. So if I was in any situation, it would always be like, how is everybody else? Like, are they okay? It would almost be like, I'm empathetic as well. So I could read the room and I could read the energy, and I'd be like, right, like this energy needs like lifting. Let me do whatever I can to lift it up. Or just always putting everybody else's needs in front of mine. So with a hyperachiever and people pleaser, like there was a lot of like working really hard to make sure everyone else was okay. And then there was another one which was called hypervigilant. So this is where you've got this like anxiety where you are trying to like sense the danger around you to be able to make sure that you can either get out of there or you can do something to improve it. So that was where my inner critic would come from. And it wasn't until I learned positive intelligence that I could then go, oh, okay, right, that makes sense. And I can see where that comes in here so that I can then do something about it. Now, it's if you or the listeners are well versed in therapy, it can sound a little bit similar to internal family systems, where internal family systems is where we all have lots of different voices in our head. So we can have the fun part, we can have the serious part, we can have the angry part, we can have the rebellious part, we can have the silly part, and so on and so forth. And it can, with the saboteurs, the 9 different saboteurs, it can feel a little bit like that, where we're like, oh, okay, we've got the master judge, and that's one part of us. And then we've got like the hyperachiever part of us, and then we've got the people pleaser part, and then we've got the hyper vigilant part. And you can take it a step further than what we do in positive intelligence, and almost like give them names and give them little characters, and then so it creates this disassociation. So that's like one thing you can do. But it's also knowing that these parts of us that aren't necessarily what we would deem useful are actually useful, and they're there to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. So it was also about kind of understanding that horrible part of me, that really awful judge, the overall one that then activated the hyperachiever and the people pleaser and the hypervigilant, I then named Sheila. No offense, sorry if anyone's called Sheila who's listening, but I would call her Sheila. And when I could then name that and go, okay, and start to have a conversation with that inner critic and say, okay, Sheila, I know you're trying to keep me safe. What do I need to know? Mm-hmm. And then I would journal on that, and then listen to her, because what we tend to do and what we get taught in society is, if you have that negative voice, tell it to shut the F up. And it's like, that doesn't quite work, because when we do that, that voice gets louder and louder and louder because it's not being heard. So instead of we can commune with that voice and go, okay, Sheila, what do I need to know? And I'm listening, and then you can journal on that, but then ask a second question so you can work through it, which is, and what do we need to do to grow? How do we grow? And then what that then does is, it's quite a transformational journaling exercise, actually, where when you ask Sheila's opinion, she then says, you just need to do this. And I've been trying to tell you about this and this and this. And you can actually look back at it and go, oh, right, well, she's making a lot of sense with this. And it stops being Sheila judging you, this inner critic judging you, and it starts to become more discerning. So that discernment is like, hey, if you don't do this, then these negative things might happen. And I just want to make you aware, rather than it being, you're worthless, you're an idiot because you're not doing this, you're not succeeding. And when we can start to do that and start to create this space in our head, it makes life so much easier and more enjoyable on this journey of building that business. So I hope that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. I love you bringing up this idea that we engage with the voice of the critic, because we open ourselves up to understanding more about us instead of just shutting it down because we're afraid of it or because of all the other reasons. I could feel that so deeply when you bring in that element. And
Yeah,
I do think there's a key there.
Yeah, I really do, because I think a lot of us are maybe scared to engage in that conversation because we don't know what's going to come out. And it's like, but it's okay. Whatever comes out, don't worry about it. There was a tool that I sometimes get some of my clients to do, which is called rage journaling. So if you're in a tricky situation, or you've fallen out with somebody, or you're going above and beyond and not getting necessarily what you want back from out of a situation, I go, right, just get a piece of paper, and I want you to let loose on that piece of paper with everything that you actually truly think, but not in the sense of you believe, but it's like your bitchiest, most horrible self. And it's like, just get it all out on the piece of paper, because I have this saying, which is, when you're in your head, you're dead. When you're on your feet, you're free. And it's like, just get it out on that piece of paper and then read it back, because you're like, oh my goodness, like some of the things that came out were like, I am horrible. But you're creating that disassociation there, first of all. And then, so that's kind of one thing you can do with kind of, if you think you've got a really, really nasty part of you, which we all do. We all have those, like that part where it's like just awful and really, really horrible. But then, like, when you're coming back to that inner critic within you, when we cut off the conversation with this inner critic and just try and tell it to shut up all the time, then, like I mentioned, it just goes louder, and it almost becomes more facetious and nastier and almost more ingrained. Whereas if we can commune with it and go, okay, I'm listening, I know you're actually genuinely here to keep me safe, because our brain is there to keep us safe. It's not meant to keep us happy. It's scientifically proven. But if we can then start to have a conversation with those voices that keep showing up, and that narrative that keeps showing up again and again and again, that's when we can start to reduce the power in it, and then be able to take steps forward with it, where we are in the driving seat and the inner critic's in the boot. So it just makes life a lot easier, because they're never going to go away. Like, so I think that's another step that we all need to accept. Like, these inner critics are there for a reason. They're not going to go away. We're never going to be completely enlightened Buddhas, and that's okay. We're human beings. But we do need to commune with ourselves instead of fighting ourselves all the time. And I think women have problems with that in some respects, because of society, because of the way the patriarchy set up, because of the way messaging is, and also from cultural upbringings as well. Like, I look at my own upbringing, and there was never a celebration of being a woman. It was always like, you're kind of, what would be the right way of saying it? More, you were viewed as second class in a way. And it's like, actually, we need to stop that. And in order for that to stop, it starts with us, and we have to have those conversations with ourselves so we can start to be kinder with ourselves, because society is not going to help us really with that. So it has to start with the individual.
Yes. Yeah. And as we're giving space for these parts of ourselves to speak, and we're engaging with them, we are creating this opportunity to actually welcome instead of separating. Like, recognizing that this Sheila part of you, right? It's like, okay, so I just want to hear it out. What's really going on? How is this part of me trying to protect me? But then as we do that, we're welcoming this voice, not to control us, but so that we understand more. And I just feel like we can create more self-love. We can create more self-assurance when we do understand more, and when we've connected with the heart part of it, which is what I'm hearing you say. I mean, I'm hearing you say, okay, here's the science to it, but then a lot of what you're doing is also connecting with the heart of it. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's what I do all day, right? That's the goal of my work, is saying we don't have to banish any idea here. And so many times, I know for myself, even the voices in the head, they were often learned. I heard the critics, I heard the judges, I heard the shaming voices, and I experienced what it meant to make a mistake. It actually meant there was the criticism, there was the shame, there was the reprimand. So now we're creating this opportunity to experience something different. When you say, hey, Sheila, tell me more about that. I want to understand. Oh, that's what you're trying to keep me safe from. Oh, okay. There's an opportunity to experience something completely different where the critic's voice is less and less. It's quieter and quieter, because now you're experiencing, I stepped out and the critic didn't rage like it used to. And so as we have that new experience, we're building that new neural pathway. Like we're creating something that is so beautiful. And we may not have had, obviously, we didn't have the chance to create the first model. We have the chance to do something about the way we're living now as the adults that we are.
Yeah, it's so true. And I love what you said about, like, yes, we've got the scientific part, but it is getting to the heart of it to understand who we are, because and that's really important, because that can also show up not just as the inner critic, like not just as those voices, but also somatically as well, where that inner voice, when that starts to show up, that can then create feelings within our body of like that tightness and restriction. And sometimes when we're not fully noticing what our thoughts are, but we can feel something's off. So say, for example, with myself, it's always in my throat. If I'm not listening to what's going on in my head, but I can feel a tightness in my throat, I can be like, okay, that's useful for me to know that there's something going on here where I'm not speaking my truth, or that inner critic is saying something to me which is causing that tightness. Some people have it in their stomach, some people have it in their chest. Like there's various different ways it shows up. But on the flip side of that, when you're in your truth, when you're in your highest connection, that also has a somatic feeling. So for me, that's like a tingling in both of my hands, particularly when I'm in meditation, or that's that feeling of groundedness. And it's almost like my aura then, like this, my non-physical presence increases dramatically. And so it's so good to be able to understand yourself, and to whatever extent feels comfortable for you, because sometimes that can be a bit too woo for somebody, where they're like, what, so you've got like some physical presence that like your aura around you then increases. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what it feels like. But equally that shrinks, and that goes right into my throat when that inner critic comes out. So that's where my work is, because it's not just all about like the inner critic. It's obviously about, well, what's the flip side, and what's all, when you are in flow, when you are in connection, when you are in ease, what does that feel like, and what does that look like? So then you've got both to be able to draw upon, and then you understand where you're going to, because there is a narrative around like understanding the inner critic and understanding what that looks like and what that sounds like. But equally, it's about where do we go from there? And this is what we call the sage perspective. And this is about where every gift, every circumstance or every outcome can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. And looking at, well, what knowledge can I gain from this? Where's the gift in this situation? And also looking at, well, will this matter when I'm 90? And doing little exercises like that, or let me explore a little bit more and be curious. And when we can start to nurture the sage perspective and that more right-hand side of brain thinking, and also feeling from a somatic perspective as well, that's where as you mentioned earlier, we are learning ourselves what it means to then thrive. Well, like you mentioned, we didn't have a choice with creating that first draft, but we do now. And here are the tools to be able to not only understand yourself, but grow and really truly thrive. And that is, for me, the ultimate success, because when we can experience more positive emotions on the whole over negative emotions, that really is a successful and happy and fulfilled life. Regardless of then what happens, I know that society places so much emphasis on the materialistic side of things, where it's like, well, how much are you making? Like, what are you at 6-7 figure years or months even? And like, look at this like Louis Vuitton handbag and look at this Cartier bracelet. And it's like, yes, all of those things are lovely, nice things if you want them. But the ultimate measure of happiness is like, did you truly live? Did you love yourself? Did you, I'm quoting Brendan Burchard now, because he always says, did you live, did you love, did you matter? And it is about those, because when you get to your deathbed at 90, we want to look at who did you become throughout that journey of building your business? Because on your deathbed, you're not necessarily going to be bothered about, oh, well, I hit like consistent 6-figure months, if you're there by yourself and you don't have any family or friends around you because you turned into Scrooge.
Yes.
But it's about what you experienced and what do you want your adventures to be along the path of building that business and along the path of like, or doing your career and living life. Like, how do you want to show up each day and creating that intentional living? So I think that's the kind of the flip side to the inner critic, in terms of, yes, we need to learn what our demons are and how to be able to just reduce that volume on them. But then on the flip side of that, how do we learn to live? How do we learn to live in a way that is truly right for us, not just what society says? And that's my main area of passion, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. I completely second what you're saying, and I'm just smiling over here, and just nodding because it's so good. And I feel like you're sharing my heart.
That's good. It's always nice to like talk to somebody who's like on the same level, because sometimes when you speak and then people are like, no, I just want this 7-figure months. And I'm like, okay.
That's cute. Yes. Oh, yeah. Wow. I think this is very, very helpful to hear. Thank you for walking us through it. You walked us through it so organized.
Thanks.
So
I'm a Virgo.
is
We're
there
all
more
organized by nature.
Is there more that you wanted to share, or have you said everything that was on your heart?
I think that's everything. I guess the final little nugget is that it's all just thoughts that we can rearrange. Sometimes it can feel really overwhelming and like a full body experience.
Yes.
But they are just thoughts that come and go. Like as women, we have between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Men have about 40,000. And we want to choose what we listen to. And yes, there will always be those thoughts of not good enough. But similarly, there are thoughts of you are amazing, you can absolutely do this, and you can go for it. And we just want to choose to tune into them a little bit more, because they're a better thought, which creates a better feeling, which creates a better action, which creates a nicer life. So I guess that's the takeaway, is that they're just thoughts. Let's not give the negative ones so much energy, so we can create that space and freedom for ourselves.
When you said that, I saw this balloon and just the needle popping it, because really, truly, even the sensations we feel, because sometimes I'll focus on that, right? The sensations we feel in our body that we just want to get away from. If we just sit with them, we just allow them to move through us, to discharge them, and we look at it from this outside perspective, it's actually not as big of a deal as we once thought it to be, or as it felt. And I think that is a really good place. Like, I love that you landed us there, because it's true. Like, let's take a moment to look at this for what it is. And I get it. When we were little, everything we felt felt even bigger than ourselves, right? And that's why I often go back to the inner child, because sure, as the grown adult, we might be feeling just like the little kid we once were. And then, okay, this thought feels bigger than ourselves. But if we set ourselves at a different perspective and look at it as, oh, perhaps there is a younger part of myself that's thinking these things, that's feeling these ways. Can I meet them? Can I sit with them and say, I know this feels really big. This feels really daunting. Oh my goodness, you're so afraid of that person over there and what they're thinking of you and what they're going to say about you. But I know who you are and I believe in you and I see your potential. And you know what? It's all right if they don't think so well of you, because there are those of us who really love who you are. If we can come alongside that echo of our past and really cheer ourselves on, there's so much power in that too, because yes, this doesn't have to be more than we want to make it, but so often it's that way. And then we just see in society, people just, riding their thoughts or riding their emotions. And we're like, well, that's what everyone else is doing. But there isn't another way for us. And this is just a moment. This is 30 minutes where we're all able to sit with this idea that it doesn't have to be like it's been. And here are some of the tools, because I hear things that we can all pull and we can put into practice. And of course, if they want to go deeper, I know, you have an opportunity for them, for a business owner that wants to no longer be held back by their critic. Is that something you wanted to share about? Or is there a link that I can add into the show notes for anyone interested to connect further with you?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you. So yes, I'm launching a group coaching program specifically for online business owners who want to create a life, not just a living, so they can accomplish sustainable success without burning out. And a large portion of that group coaching program will be taking people through the positive intelligence mindset work that I've been taken through, so that they can create those tools. They can learn how to reduce that inner critic and in those various different guises, and also be given the tools to be able to not only help themselves, but help their kids in relationships, and also in leadership when they want to start bringing other people on board as well. And so I can absolutely give you the link to that. If anybody wants to go straight to my either Instagram page or website, Instagram is ailish.lucas, which is spelled AILISH.LUCAS. And it's the same for my website, which is ailishlucas.com. So AILISH Lucas.com.
And I will link all that in the show notes, and you should definitely follow Ailish. I know you can feel her energy from this time with her, but I truly appreciate you, and I love the online presence you have, and you are bringing light and love into the spaces that you come, and it's such a gift. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I've loved speaking to you. So thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Here we are. We've come to the end of another episode. Sit back and reflect on what you heard. What's the one thing that resonates with you that you can take away and do something with? Let's not just listen. Let's listen and take action. Now, action may look very different for us, but it's doing something with what we hear. I hope that you'll share today's episode with a friend that you think would also enjoy it. And please come back next week. I hope that you have a fabulous week, and that you remember, when you pillow your head at night, when you're going through your days, that who you are is good. And I'm glad that you're alive.